The desert stretched for miles, endless rock and dust under a sky too wide to hold. Stars burned sharp and cold overhead, more than the human eye could count. In the middle of that lonely wilderness stood the Kepler Research Station, white domes, tall antenna arrays, and the skeletons of radio telescopes turning with slow, patient movements. Dr. Maya Rodriguez walked the gravel paths between the dishes, her boots crunching, her breath spilling clouds in the midnight air. The cold bit through her jacket. Out here, heat belonged to the sun alone. When it left, the desert froze. She pulled her scarf tighter and kept moving. Normally, she loved the silence of these nights. The sky had always been her cathedral, the telescopes its silent organs. But tonight, the silence was heavy waiting. She had been listening for years. 8 years of faint signals, echoes of pulsars, the static of the universe. Most of it was noise, random patterns that humans could dress up with meaning, but that meant nothing. Yet this was different. The signal had started 3 months ago. At first, the computers dismissed it, background interference, a glitch, solar flares bouncing oddly through space. But Maya had seen the pattern hidden inside. Too regular, too structured, the universe did not hum this way on accident. Someone or something was speaking. Inside the control building, light glowed pale green against walls lined with equipment. Screens scrolled endlessly, full of waveforms, numbers, translations. The air hummed with fans and whispered with tired voices. Most of the team had abandoned sleep hours ago. Coffee cups sat forgotten beside keyboards. Eyes were hollow, but hands kept moving. At the main console sat Dr. Kevin Murphy, shoulders hunched, eyes locked to his monitor. A thin man with black hair falling into his glasses, Kevin looked like the ghost of himself. He had been the station's linguist, hired to analyze hypothetical alien languages. No one thought he'd ever need to, until now. Maya walked in, rubbing her hands for warmth. Any progress? Kevin's fingers flew across the keyboard. He didn't look up. His voice was rough, flat. It's getting clearer. He paused, swallowing. But Maya, you're not going to like this. Her stomach tightened. Show me. Kevin pressed a key. The main screen lit up with text. English letters, crude translations of something deeper, something alien. Maya stepped closer, her eyes dragging across the words. Greetings, species of the third planet from the Yellow Star. We are the Zephyrian Alliance, speakers for the Galactic Collective. Your world has been observed. Your technology level has been measured. You are now ready to join our family of civilized worlds. Her lips went dry. She forced herself to keep reading. You have 30 of your rotation cycles to prepare. Send representatives to prove your species is worthy of membership. There will be 5 trials: combat skill, technology use, medical knowledge, strategic thinking, and species strength. Failure means your world will be cleansed and prepared for better use. Maya froze, the words slamming into her chest. Around her, the control room went silent. Her voice broke the stillness. Kevin, how many? He clicked through the files, eyes hollow. According to this, 847 species have joined the collective. Joined, she whispered, tasting the word, by choice. Kevin didn't answer. He kept scrolling. His face had gone pale, lips pressed tight. Kevin, Maya said sharply. Finally, he looked at her. His eyes were full of something she had never seen in him before. Fear. 12, he said quietly. The room stopped breathing. Maya felt the air leave her lungs as though someone had punched her in the chest. 12 out of hundreds. That meant the other 835. Her knees buckled. She sank into the nearest chair, her hands cold despite the warmth of the machines. They killed them, she whispered. 800 worlds erased. Kevin's voice was a rasp. There's more. Maya lifted her head slowly, numb. They sent technical data, Kevin said, pulling up more files. Records of the trials, schematics, instructions, and battle logs. His throat worked as he swallowed. The combat test, it's not just fighting. They want to see each species' apex predators. Maya blinked. The words didn't make sense. Apex predators, you mean lions, tigers, sharks in spacesuits? Kevin shook his head. His voice was heavy. Not animals, warriors, soldiers, the deadliest killers each species could offer, and they all lost, every single one of them. He tapped a key. The screen shifted, filling with battle records. Strange figures, tall and monstrous, armored like demons, their weapons dripping with blood. The same name appeared again and again. Krillian Berserkers. They had fought for 60 years, undefeated. Every alien champion who had stepped into the trial arena had fallen to them. Every world had died after. Maya stared at the glowing records, horror twisting her gut. Entire civilizations erased like chalk wiped from a board. Her mind drifted upward toward the sky outside. The stars she had once loved now seemed like graves. Each point of light could be a tomb, a world of people who had once lived, laughed, and dreamed, snuffed out because they could not win these trials. "They want apex predators," she whispered. Kevin leaned back exhausted. "Yes, they want to see what Earth can produce, and if we fail." "We burn," Maya finished. Her hands trembled. She gripped the chair arms to steady herself. She remembered the farm in Texas where she grew up. Coyotes hunting rabbits, hawks diving for mice, spiders weaving traps for flies, predators everywhere, each built for its prey. But humans were something else. They didn't just hunt. They learned, they planned. They killed everything, animals, nature, disease, even each other. Thousands of years of sharpening claws, not of bone, but of mind. Maybe the Zephyrians didn't know what they were asking for. Maya rose, her voice steady again. "Call Washington, Moscow, Beijing, London, every capital. This isn't for one nation. This is for Earth." Kevin hesitated. "Maya, are you sure if this is real?" "It's real," she said coldly. "And if we do nothing, we'll be the next tomb in the stars." The room fell into motion. Phones lit up. Lines opened. Messages raced across the world. Maya stepped outside again, the night wind sharp against her face. She looked at the stars. The sky was no longer beautiful. It was a battlefield. And Earth had just been drafted. The White House Situation Room was built for moments like this. A long oval table stretched beneath harsh lights, the air heavy with tension. Screens on the walls showed shifting graphs, orbital scans, and grainy images of objects moving through the solar system. President Linda Carter sat at the head, her posture stiff but steady. She was a tall woman in her early 60s, her silver-streaked hair pulled back tight, her dark eyes sharp as blades. Around her sat generals, scientists, and diplomats from across the world. The air smelled of coffee, sweat, and fear. Dr. Maya Rodriguez sat halfway down the table, a folder in her lap, her knuckles white around it. She felt small in this room. She was a scientist, not a politician. But she was the one who had decoded the signal. She was the one who had to explain it. President Carter leaned forward, voice calm but cutting. "Dr. Rodriguez, you've studied this more than anyone. Tell us plainly, what are we facing?" Maya took a breath. The folder trembled slightly as she opened it. Not an invitation, a threat. The Zephyrian Alliance isn't offering membership in anything peaceful. They're running an empire. They've grown for centuries by absorbing other worlds. They make it sound like diplomacy, but it's conquest disguised as ceremony. Murmurs rippled through the room. Some whispered empire, others war. General Robert Hayes, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, leaned forward, his uniform crisp, his face weathered from decades of service. "Can we win?" Maya met his eyes. She didn't soften her words. Every other species failed. Hundreds tried, all died. The room went still. Dr. Lisa Bennett, head of Naval Special Operations, tapped her pen nervously against her notebook. She was lean, sharp-featured, with the restless energy of a fighter trapped in a meeting. "So what's the play? We send our strongest, our toughest. We've got Marines who have fought in deserts, jungles, frozen mountains. We've got special forces who have survived hell itself, if anyone can." "No," Maya's voice cut like a knife. Heads turned toward her. "No," she repeated. "That's what every other world tried. They sent their titans, their champions, their greatest warriors, and they all lost." She tapped the folder where alien records glowed on thin sheets. "The Krillian berserkers slaughtered them. Strength won't save us." "Then what will?" Bennett snapped. Maya hesitated, then said the word aloud. "Ingenuity." The room stirred again, voices rising. "Ingenuity? That's suicide. We need force, not tricks." President Carter raised her hand. The room fell silent, her eyes locked on Maya. "Explain." Maya straightened. "They asked for apex predators. They think that means muscle, size, raw power. But humans aren't predators because we're strong. We're predators because we're clever. We hunt by thinking, by planning, by cheating. We don't fight fair, we survive. And that's why we're dangerous." The silence stretched, heavy and uncomfortable. General Hayes rubbed his chin slowly. So, we don't send our strongest, we send our most dangerous. Maya nodded once. Yes, the ones who can improvise, the ones who can think 3 steps ahead, the ones who see rules as obstacles, not boundaries. They expect lions, we give them foxes. A low murmur of unease rippled again. Words like dishonor, cowardice, unacceptable floated in the air. One of the diplomats, a stern man from France, cleared his throat. If we cheat, won't it enrage them? If we spit on their traditions? Maya cut him off. Their tradition is genocide. Their rules are designed to make us lose. Playing fair is suicide. The words hung in the air like smoke. Finally, President Carter spoke. General Hayes. Ma'am, build me a team, not the strongest, not the fastest, the most dangerous. Hayes nodded slowly. Understood. Fort Carson, Colorado, underground facility. The training facility had been a skeleton of steel and concrete just 3 weeks ago. Now it thrummed with life. Engineers swarmed over alien blueprints, building strange machines from the schematics the Zephyrians had so helpfully included with their signal. Bright lights buzzed, and the air stank of ozone and sweat. Colonel Bate Turner, a woman with sharp eyes and a sharper voice, led Hayes down a long hallway lined with reinforced doors. We've assembled 5 candidates, each one chosen for adaptability, not brute force. You'll want to see this. The first door slid open. Inside, a firing range stretched with targets moving in 3 dimensions, popping up from the floor, swooping on rails, flickering into holograms. At the far end stood Sergeant Tony Williams, calm, steady, lean. His rifle barked once, twice, 3 times. Targets vanished in sparks, each hit impossibly precise. Army Rangers, Turner said, but he started as a hunter in Montana. His father taught him to shoot before he could ride a bike. He can hit a moving target at 1,200 yards in a crosswind. We gave him an alien rifle 3 days ago. He had it mastered in 2 hours. He's already modifying the design. Hayes nodded, impressed. Tony reloaded without a word, eyes cold and focused. The next room hummed with strange lights. Alien medical equipment blinked in unreadable patterns. Beside it stood Dr. Kevin Murphy, not the linguist from the telescope, but a battlefield medic turned trauma surgeon. He worked with calm precision, his hands sure as he explored alien instruments. Detroit-born, Turner explained. He treated gunshot wounds before he was 16, became a surgeon, then volunteered for combat zones. He can improvise treatments from scraps. He's studying alien anatomy, finding pressure points, weaknesses. He'll keep our people alive and maybe figure out how to kill things that think they're unkillable. In the third room, a massive simulator filled the space. Controls shimmered with alien glyphs. Captain Lisa Bennett sat at the helm, hands moving fast, eyes sharper still. On the screen, an alien craft twisted through impossible maneuvers. Navy SEALs for 12 years, Turner said. Then test pilot. She can fly anything, wings, rotors, engines. The Zephyrians sent us manuals. She's already found ways to override their systems, make their ships do things they were never designed for. The fourth room looked like a war bunker. Screens covered the walls, showing tactical maps, simulations, and troop movements. At the center sat Major Danny Clark, a wiry man with quick eyes, moving pieces across maps like a chess master. Afghanistan veteran, Turner explained. Specialty in unconventional warfare. He wins by deception, by making enemies think they're winning until it's too late. He says most alien tactics look like human warfare from 2 centuries ago, big armies, direct assaults. He plans to break them with misdirection. The last room looked like a gym crossed with a laboratory. Sensors tracked every movement of Captain Amy Foster as she moved through combat drills. She wasn't the biggest or the strongest, but her precision was eerie. Every strike, every dodge calculated. Psychologist, interrogation expert, special ops, Turner said. Her specialty is getting into opponents' heads. She's been studying the Krillian berserkers' combat recordings. She says their strength is also their weakness. They fight with rage, and rage makes mistakes. Hayes watched her move, silent. 5 people, not giants, not titans, humans. Turner's voice was low. They're not the strongest Earth has, but they're the smartest killers we've ever trained. Hayes nodded slowly. Predators. The Observer. As the 2 officers left the last room, the air shimmered. Light bent strangely, colors twisting. A tall, crystalline figure stepped into existence. Hayes stiffened, Turner froze. The being's voice was music and thunder. General Hayes, Colonel Turner, I am Ambassador Kafir of the Zephyrian Alliance. I have come to observe. Its body was like glass, constantly refracting light, impossible to focus on. When it moved, it seemed to slide rather than walk. Hayes forced his voice steady. Ambassador, welcome, I hope you find Earth interesting. Very, Kafir said, its crystal surface pulsed faintly. Your choices are unusual. Other species select titans of flesh and armor. You select fragile creatures. Our team is exactly what we want to send, Hayes replied evenly. Kafir tilted its head, the motion almost mocking. Curious. They seem less interested in fighting and more in understanding. They take apart our devices instead of using them. They analyze, they question, they improvise. This is not warrior behavior. Colonel Turner leaned forward. Maybe you misunderstand, Ambassador. We don't send warriors. Kafir's form shimmered, bending the light. Then what do you send? Turner's eyes were hard. Survivors. The crystalline ambassador made a sound like laughter, but beneath the music there was unease. The alien trial station hung in orbit like a fortress carved from starlight. Massive towers stretched into the void, bridges of glowing metal spanning between them. Ships of 100 species drifted around it, some sleek as blades, others grotesque and organic, wings and tendrils curling against the black. The human vessel was small by comparison, barely a speck. But inside it, 5 people sat in silence, strapped into their seats as the docking clamps seized their ship with a grinding shudder. Lisa Bennett tightened her harness. She had flown through combat zones before, but this was different. The sheer scale of the station made her stomach knot. Remember, she said softly, every eye in that arena will be watching us. If we stumble once, we're finished. Beside her, Danny Clark smirked. Then let's make sure they're the ones stumbling. The clamps released. The ship slid forward into a cavernous hangar, walls glowing with alien symbols. Hundreds of alien spectators lined observation decks, their bodies diverse and unsettling. Crystalline forms like Ambassador Kafir, insectoids with too many eyes, creatures floating in spheres of liquid furred giants hunched in silence. The humans walked in tight formation, their boots echoing against the smooth floor. They carried no flashy weapons, no ceremonial armor, just compact packs slung across their shoulders, filled with tools, scraps, and tricks. From the far end of the hangar, a towering figure emerged, a being of metal and wood, its limbs jointed like machinery. Its voice boomed across the chamber. The first trial begins, technology adaptation. Each team will receive unfamiliar devices. You must solve the power regulation problem within 1 rotation hour. Failure is elimination. The floor shifted. Sections of metal slid away to reveal long tables covered in alien equipment. Shapes that made no sense, crystal arrays glowing faintly, tubes of liquid that pulsed like veins, strange geometric blocks humming with vibration. The other species rushed forward immediately, their teams falling into frantic work. Tall, thin creatures with too many arms began snapping pieces together, following the instruction glyphs displayed on their monitors. Rock-bodied beings lumbered slowly, but methodically, placing crystals in symmetrical patterns. The humans, however, did not move. Lisa scanned the tables, her mind whirring. They're all using the manuals, she said. Amy Foster crouched beside her, eyes flicking toward the other teams. Look at them. Every single one is trying to follow the rules exactly. They're building what they think the judges want. Danny leaned against the table casually. Then let's build what works instead. Lisa smiled thinly. Exactly, let's cheat. Breaking the rules. Tony Williams slid forward, his sharp eyes darting over the crystal arrays. He pulled out a portable scanner and began checking energy outputs. These crystals, they spike if you reverse the polarity. Dangerous, but it pushes output way beyond normal limits. Perfect, Lisa said. Kevin, what about those liquid tubes? Kevin Murphy, already in gloves, prodded the pulsing veins. Pressure sensitive. If we can heat the liquid, it expands and drives these valves. But the safety caps block maximum flow. They were designed to fail safe. Then we make them fail dangerous, Danny muttered, his grin sharp. Amy moved silently among the other teams, pretending to observe but actually studying them. The insectoids are already melting components by forcing wrong connections. The rock people are too slow, they'll never finish. And the flying ones, they can't even grip the tools properly. She returned to the group. Everyone's floundering, they're prisoners of the rules. Lisa's eyes burned. Then let's show them what happens when predators get loose. The build. For the next 40 minutes, chaos became strategy. Tony rerouted crystal energy backward, deliberately overloading circuits until the crystals glowed dangerously bright. Kevin siphoned that heat into the liquid tubes, forcing them to expand beyond design tolerances. Danny mapped the connections, ignoring the manuals and creating shortcuts that bypassed required systems. Lisa took control of the core regulator unit. If we link the overheated crystals to the expanded tubes, then dump that into the control grid. We'll fry the whole board, Kevin interrupted. Not if we bypass the safeties, Danny countered. Amy smirked. So the plan is, break everything, then force it to work harder than it was ever meant to. Lisa's smile was grim. Exactly. The humans moved with eerie calm compared to the frantic alien teams. Tools clinked, sparks hissed. The crystal arrays glowed brighter, threatening to shatter. Liquid hissed inside tubes, valves creaking under strain. Finally, Lisa gave a sharp nod. Activate. Tony flipped the switch. The entire contraption roared to life, humming so loud the floor vibrated. Energy readings spiked across the display screens. The regulator glowed like a miniature star, its outputs 10 times higher than the baseline. The judges leaned forward, metallic faces unreadable. Lisa checked the timer. 30 minutes, half the time limit. The other teams were still fumbling. Sparks flew as one group's device exploded. Another sat in silence, their crystals burned out. The insectoids were screeching at each other, limbs tangled in melted tubes. The humans stood calmly, their system purring like a predator at rest. Reaction. The trial judge's voice echoed. Human team completed early, with unprecedented efficiency. The alien spectators erupted in murmurs. Some hissed in disapproval, others muttered uneasily. Ambassador Kafir's crystalline body shimmered beside the judges. His voice carried a note of curiosity. You did not follow the instructions. Lisa tilted her head. Instructions are suggestions, we used what worked. Dishonorable, a deep voice growled from the stands. A bear-like alien rose, fur bristling. They twisted the devices, broke them. This is sabotage, not skill. Danny Clark leaned on the table, smiling lazily. Call it what you want, we call it winning. Laughter rippled through some sections of the crowd, though it was sharp and uneasy. The judge raised a massive arm of wood and steel. Trial 1 complete, humans advance. Aftermath. Back in their quarters, the humans sat together, the hum of surveillance devices faint around them. Amy had already found 3 hidden monitors and was feeding them false chatter while the real discussion happened in whispers. That worked, Tony said flatly, cleaning soot from his rifle. Too well. Kevin nodded, rubbing his tired eyes. They weren't expecting anyone to abuse the systems. They think technology should be used the way it's handed to you. Danny chuckled darkly. And we proved them wrong. First rule of asymmetric warfare, turn the enemy's tools against them. Lisa leaned back in her chair, staring at the ceiling. They wanted to see predators. We showed them. Not lions, not bears, scavengers, hackers, cheaters. That's what makes us dangerous. The room fell quiet for a moment. Amy finally spoke, her voice low. They're starting to realize what we are, and I don't think they like it. Lisa's lips curved into a cold smile. Good, let them be afraid. The next morning, the judge's voice thundered once again. Trial 2 begins, medical. And the humans would soon discover that healing could be just as dangerous as killing. The trial arena shifted overnight. Where yesterday had been machines and circuits, today the chamber was lined with bioluminescent walls, their glow a cold, sickly green. Alien medical pods hovered in place, each holding a patient, though none were truly alive. The Zephyrians had built simulations so precise, the patients bled, breathed, and suffered as if real. The crowd roared, hundreds of species gathered to watch. Some looked eager, others grim, few had hope. The judge's metallic voice echoed once more. Trial 2, medicine. Each team will be given patients of diverse biology. Treat them, save as many as you can. Failure means elimination. The pod slid forward. Inside them lay horrors, creatures with anatomy that defied imagination. A reptilian being with translucent skin showing shredded veins. An insectoid with shattered mandibles and leaking ichor. A blob-like organism collapsing in on itself as if its organs were liquefying. Kevin Murphy stepped forward, his bag slung over his shoulder. He cracked his knuckles. His eyes were tired, but there was a fire in them. "All right," he muttered, "let's see what we've got." Kevin's trial. The other teams rushed in with confidence. The crystalline beings poured light into their patients. Hopping healing energy worked universally. The insectoid medics sprayed secretions into wounds, trying to rebuild tissue. A group of aquatic healers pumped water into a mammal-like patient until its lungs filled. Kevin didn't move at first, he just looked. He circled each pod slowly, murmuring to himself. Respiration, circulation, metabolic pressure systems. His mind worked like an engine. Lisa leaned close. "What are you seeing?" He didn't answer. Instead, he snapped his fingers at Tony. "I need temperature readings on the reptilian." Tony obliged with a portable scanner. Kevin checked the data, then nodded. "Its blood thickens when cold, heart stopped. Standard CPR won't work, but pressure pulses might." He grabbed a pair of alien valves, rigged them to expand and contract in rhythm. Within seconds, the reptilian's body twitched, its eyes fluttering. "First one's back," Kevin said calmly. The crowd gasped. "Next pod, blob creature." Kevin frowned. "Circulatory system's pressure-based. It's like a hydraulic pump. It collapsed because pressure equalized. Needs rhythmic force, not fluids." He grabbed tubing, jury-rigged a pump, and built a cycle machine from scratch. The blob swelled, its body poolsing back to life. By now, the other teams were failing. One insectoid patient screamed as its healers pumped the wrong enzymes into its system. Another alien body spasmed until it went limp. Some healers backed away in despair. Kevin never stopped moving. His hands were a blur, his brain a storm. The insectoid with shattered mandibles. He ignored the alien repair gel and used crystal fragments as splints. The aquatic organism gasping on land. He improvised a makeshift lung using spare tubes and an air compressor. Every time he hit a wall, he built a ladder. Sweat poured down his forehead. His knuckles bled from working with alien shards, but one by one, his patients stabilized. At the end of the hour, 5 of his 6 patients were alive. The next best team had managed 2. The crowd went silent, then a low ripple of shock moved through them. Ambassador Kafir's crystalline form bent toward Kevin. "Fascinating. You treat medicine as if it were engineering." Kevin wiped his bloody hands on his coat. "Bodies are machines. You just need to know which part's broken, and if the part doesn't exist," he smirked, "you build one." The judge raised its arms. Trial 2 complete. Humans advance. The strategy trial. The arena transformed again. This time it became a battlefield simulation, stretching in holographic landscapes across the chamber floor. A colony world appeared in detail. Cities, rivers, mountain passes, resource depots. Across it marched simulated alien armies, vast, terrifying, endless. The judge's voice thundered. Trial 3, Strategy. Defend your colony from invasion. You may command simulated forces only. Failure means elimination. The alien commanders strode forward proudly. The bear-like warriors placed their strongest units on the high ground, forming a solid wall of defense. The insectoids built hive bunkers around the colony's heart. The crystalline teams scattered their forces evenly, like shining shields against the storm. Danny Clark sat at his console, chewing on a toothpick, eyes sharp. He didn't touch his units at first, he just watched. Lisa frowned. "Danny, the enemy's moving. You need to start placing defenses." "Not yet," Danny muttered. His fingers tapped the table rhythmically. "Let them get comfortable." The enemy armies advanced. Laser fire rained across the holographic battlefield. Alien commanders barked orders, repositioning their strongest units. Danny finally leaned forward. "All right, abandon the cities." The other humans stared at him. "What?" Amy demanded. "Let them take the shiny stuff," Danny said. "They'll trip over it." He redirected his units away from the cities entirely. Instead, he armed civilians, scattered guerrilla squads into forests, set demolition charges along the resource depots. The other alien commanders stared in horror. "You're surrendering your colonies?" one insected snapped. "Dishonor." "No," Danny replied coolly. "I'm baiting the trap." The enemy armies surged into the cities triumphantly, but the buildings were wired with explosives. Detonations roared, collapsing towers onto entire divisions. The depots they seized turned out to be poisoned with radiation. The supply lines they stretched too thin were ambushed by swarms of armed civilians. Within minutes, the enemy army began to collapse, not from brute force, but from sabotage, hunger, and chaos. Danny leaned back, smiling faintly. Never fight the enemy where they're strong, make them fight where they're weak, then cut their throat when they're busy choking. The alien commanders roared in protest. "This is dishonorable. You sacrificed civilians, you deceived your enemies." Danny's eyes glittered cold. "War isn't about honor, it's about winning. Ask the ghosts of those 835 worlds how honor worked out for them." Silence followed. The judge raised its arms once more. Trial 3 complete. Humans advance. Aftermath. Back in their quarters, the team sat in silence. The air was thick with the weight of what they had just done. Kevin's hand still shook. Danny's eyes still burned. Amy leaned against the wall, arms folded. "They hate us," she said softly. "Good," Danny muttered. "Means we're doing it right." Lisa sighed. "No, Amy's right. We're scaring them, and not just our enemies, even the ones who might want to be allies. They're realizing we don't play by their rules." Maya Rodriguez, who had joined them as scientific advisor, spoke from the corner. Her voice was quiet but steady. "That's because their rules are designed to make us fail. If we play by them, Earth dies. If we break them, maybe Earth lives." Tony cleaned his rifle slowly. "Then let's keep breaking them." The next trial was announced. Trial 4, Combat Preliminaries, one-on-one duels. Survivors advanced to the final test against the Krillian berserkers. And for the first time, the humans would step directly into the arena. The combat arena was nothing like the trial chambers before it. It stretched for miles under a dome of shimmering energy, designed to contain violence too dangerous for walls. The ground shifted between rock, sand, and alien plant growth, changing every few minutes to mimic hostile worlds. The crowd filled the stands, their voices a storm of languages and sounds. Many had come for this trial alone. To them, combat was sacred. Here, honor was measured in blood. The Zephyrian judge's voice thundered. Trial 4, Combat Preliminaries. One-on-one duels. Each representative must fight. Victory advances, death eliminates. The alien teams stepped forward proudly, their champions clad in shining armor, wielding traditional weapons that glowed with ancient sigils. They raised their weapons to the crowd, basking in roars of approval. The humans stepped forward last. 5 figures in plain gear, no ceremonial armor, no gleaming weapons. Just tools strapped to belts, rifles slung casually, knives tucked away. The silence that followed was almost insulting. "They look soft," one crystalline observer murmured. "Fragile," another hissed. Ambassador Kafir tilted his head, crystalline body refracting light. "Or deceptive." Amy's fight. The first duel was Amy Foster. Her opponent towered over her, an armored beast 8 feet tall, with claws like swords and eyes glowing with rage. The crowd screamed its name, stamping the stands. It flexed its muscles and raised a massive blade, ready to split the small human in two. Amy stood loose, hands open at her sides. She didn't even raise her weapon. The judge signaled, "Begin." The beast roared and charged, blade swinging down. Amy didn't meet it. She slipped aside, the strike gouging the earth. She circled lightly, hands still open. "You swing that heavy thing like you've never fought someone faster than you," she called, her voice calm. The alien snarled, striking again. Amy darted back. "You're strong, sure, but predictable. My grandmother hit harder and she was half your size." The crowd gasped at her insolence. The alien roared in fury, swinging wildly. Amy dodged each blow with inches to spare, never striking back. "You tired yet?" she asked. "Because I can do this all day, you not so much." The beast screamed, lost in rage, its strike sloppy now. Amy finally stepped in. She kicked dirt into its eyes, rolled under its swing, and slammed a knife into the joint of its armor. The blade wasn't meant to kill, it was meant to enrage further. Blinded, bleeding, furious, the alien stumbled. Amy tripped it, used its own momentum to drive its blade into the ground. She leaned close to its ear as it thrashed. You lost the second you got angry. With one last strike to the head, the beast collapsed unconscious. The crowd was silent, then whispers spread like wildfire. The judge raised its hand. Winner, human. Amy walked calmly back to her team, wiping sweat from her brow. He never realized I was fighting his mind, not his body. Tony's fight. Tony Williams faced a serpent-like alien, scales shimmering, twin blades flicking in its many hands. The creature hissed, circling. Tony adjusted his rifle, but not to fire. Instead, he aimed deliberately at the ground between them and pulled the trigger. Dust exploded upward, obscuring vision. The serpent lunged into the cloud, slashing wildly. But Tony was no longer there. He had already moved, silent as a shadow. The crowd strained to see, then a single shot cracked. The serpent screamed, one knee buckling as a bullet tore through the joint where scales overlapped. Another shot, another joint shattered. The alien collapsed, writhing. Tony approached, calm, expressionless. He pressed his rifle to its forehead. Fight over. The serpent hissed in rage, trying to raise a blade. Tony fired into the ground beside its head. The meaning was clear. The judge's voice boomed, winner, human. Some aliens shouted in outrage, coward, dishonor, but others murmured in awe, precision over brute force. Tony walked back without a word. His only comment, predators don't waste bullets. Kevin's fight. Kevin Murphy wasn't supposed to be here. He was the medic, the fixer, but rules demanded all fight. His opponent was a crystalline warrior, its body refracting light, wielding a staff of pure energy. Kevin had no rifle, only a knife. The crowd laughed when he stepped forward. The duel began. The crystalline warrior lunged, its staff crackling. Kevin dodged once, barely, the heat searing his side. He backed up, breathing hard. Then his eyes flicked to the warrior's chest, where its crystal plates shifted slightly with each breath. Pressure points. Kevin lunged, not for the staff, but for the warrior's wrist. He jammed the knife handle, not the blade, into a glowing seam. The warrior screeched, its arm locking. Kevin ducked under the staff, drove his knee into another seam at the waist. The crystal cracked faintly. The crowd gasped. No one had ever attacked crystalline beings like this. Kevin struck again, using medical precision, hitting every weak spot. The warrior staggered, limbs locking. Finally, Kevin slammed his knife into a chest seam, not cutting but forcing the plates apart until the warrior collapsed, immobile. The judge's voice thundered, winner, human. Kevin stood panting, sweat dripping. Bodies are just machines, he muttered. You just need to know where to press. Lisa's fight. Lisa Bennett's opponent was a flyer, wings buzzing, claws curved. It darted through the air, faster than any human eye could follow. Lisa didn't chase it, she watched. She tracked its flight pattern, eyes narrowing, each swoop, each dive predictable. She pulled two small devices from her belt, alien tech she'd tinkered with. She hurled one high, another low. The flyer swooped in, confident. The devices detonated in midair with a blast of electromagnetic pulse. The alien's wings spasmed, its body crashing to the ground. Lisa was already there, pressing her boot to its chest, knife at its throat. Winner, human. The crowd erupted, some furious, some exhilarated. She hadn't fought the creature, she had grounded it. Danny's fight. Danny Clark stepped into the arena last. His opponent was the most traditional warrior of all, a bear-like giant clad in gleaming armor, wielding a massive hammer. It saluted solemnly before the fight. Danny just grinned, cute. The fight began. The giant charged, hammer raised. Danny didn't move. At the last second, he threw a small device at the ground, an improvised smoke grenade. The arena filled with choking haze. The giant swung blindly, roaring. Danny slipped around, striking with quick blows to the back of the knees, the elbows, never lethal, just humiliating. The giant roared louder, swinging madly. Danny's voice taunted from the smoke. Swing harder, big guy, maybe you'll hit air this time. The crowd gasped as the warrior stumbled. Danny darted forward, slammed a stun rod into the bear's exposed neck joint. The giant collapsed, twitching. Danny bowed mockingly, winner, human. Aftermath. Back in their quarters, the humans sat together, silent but tense. The surveillance devices hummed, but Amy had already filled them with fake conversations. "They hate us even more now," she said. "Good," Danny muttered. "No," Lisa said sharply. "It's not just hate, it's fear. They're realizing what we are." Kevin sat heavily, wiping blood from his knuckles. "Predators, not warriors, predators." Tony checked his rifle, voice flat. "And predators don't fight fair." Outside, the alien council chambers buzzed with outrage. Many demanded disqualification. Others whispered in shock. Ambassador Kafir shimmered silently, watching. The judge's voice boomed across the station. "The final trial approaches. Combat against the undefeated champions of 60 cycles. The Krillian Berserkers." For the first time, the humans would face the monsters that had killed every other species, champions. The fight that decided Earth's survival was about to begin. The arena changed again. This time it was vast, larger than a city, larger than anything the humans had seen before. A landscape carved for war. Jagged cliffs rose on one side, dunes of alien sand on another. A forest of metallic trees shimmered in the center, their silver bark humming faintly with stored energy. Glowing plants spread across the plains, bioluminescent spores drifting like dust. Rivers of molten light cut through the field, bordered by stone bridges. Above, the dome shimmered. The crowd's roar thundered like a storm. Representatives of hundreds of species leaned forward in their seats, some eager for slaughter, some hopping against hope, most expecting the humans to die quickly. The judge's metallic voice boomed. "Final trial combat. The undefeated Krillian Berserkers versus the representatives of Earth. No restrictions. The trial ends when one team can no longer continue." From the far end of the arena, 5 massive silhouettes emerged. The Krillian Berserkers. Each stood nearly 8 feet tall, bodies covered in natural armor black as obsidian. Their red eyes glowed through helmets like embers of rage. Weapons too heavy for any normal creature to lift hung in their hands, blades thicker than doors, hammers that cracked the ground when they moved. The crowd roared their names, a chant of fear and worship. The Berserkers had never lost. They had bathed in the blood of champions for 60 cycles. At the other end stood 5 humans, small, soft, barely armored. The contrast was absurd. Some aliens laughed openly, others shook their heads in pity. Ambassador Kafir, watching from above, said nothing, but his crystalline body pulsed with unease. "The plan." Lisa Bennett stood at the center of her team, voice calm but sharp. "Remember the plan? We don't fight fair. We don't fight their fight. We make them fight ours." Tony checked his rifle, hands steady. "Joints and gaps, don't waste shots." Kevin adjusted his pack of improvised medical and chemical gear. "I've rigged the spores to detonate when disturbed. If we heard them right, it'll blind them." Danny studied the map on his wrist screen, eyes darting. "Electric traps in the forest, charges under the bridges, funhouse waiting to happen." Amy rolled her shoulders, eyes cold. "Leave the taunting to me. I'll keep them angry. Angry means stupid." The judge's arm lifted. "Begin." Opening moves. The Berserkers roared and charged in a straight line, ground quaking beneath their steps. Their war cry was like metal tearing, so loud it shook the dome. The humans did what no other species had ever done. They ran. The crowd gasped. Warriors did not run, champions did not scatter. But the humans weren't warriors, they were predators. Lisa's voice crackled in the comms. "Scatter, make them chase." Tony sprinted to the cliffs, rifle already rising. Amy darted toward the metallic forest, shouting insults as she went. Danny slipped into the dunes, planting devices. Kevin knelt by the glowing plants, knife flashing as he cut them open. Lisa herself ran toward the river bridge, baiting pursuit. The Berserkers slowed, confused. For 60 years, every opponent had stood proud, had fought honorably, and died. This was different. This was chaos. One Berserker bellowed and chased Amy into the forest. Another turned toward Tony's cliffs. The leader roared and charged Lisa directly. The fight fractured instantly. Tony's hunt. Tony reached high ground, breathing steady. He set his scope on the lead Berserker's knee joint. One shot cracked out. The round sparked off armor, but the giant stumbled. Second shot, same joint. A crack appeared. Third shot, the joint shattered. The berserker roared, falling to one knee. But Tony was already moving, relocating before the monster could charge his position. "You're big," Tony muttered under his breath, "but big just means bigger targets." Amy's game. In the metallic forest, Amy darted between silver trunks. The berserker's heavy footsteps clanged against the ground, its blade carving trees apart. Amy shouted, her voice echoing. "That's it, that's your best swing, my kid cousin hits harder." The berserker roared, eyes glowing hotter, rage blinding it. It swung too wide, crashing into Danny's electric trap. A surge of energy ripped through the tree network, arcing into the giant. The berserker convulsed, armor sparking. Amy grinned, darting in just long enough to slash its hamstring joint before vanishing again. "Told you, you're slow." Kevin's spores. By the glowing fields, Kevin worked fast. He sliced into the bioluminescent plants, exposing sacks of spore gas. When the berserker charged, Kevin ducked aside and hurled a rock. The plant burst, releasing a cloud of thick, glowing mist. The berserker stumbled into it. The spores clung to its armor, coating its vision. It swung wildly, blinded, coughing in rage. Kevin stepped back, heart pounding. "Not poison," he muttered. "Just enough to make you blind and dumb." He pulled out a flare, lit it, and hurled it into the cloud. The spores ignited in a burst of light. The berserker screamed, thrashing as its armor cracked under the heat. Lisa's trap. Lisa sprinted across the bridge, glancing back. The lead berserker charged after her, blade raised, eyes locked in fury. She reached the far side, dove behind cover, and shouted into her comm. "Now!" Danny, watching from the dunes, triggered the charges. The bridge exploded. The berserker howled as it plunged into the molten river below, flames consuming its armored body. Lisa exhaled hard, chest heaving. One down. Danny's deception. Danny wasn't a fighter, he didn't need to be. He lured his berserker across the dunes, planting devices behind him as he retreated. The giant charged, each step sinking deep. "Come on," Danny muttered, "chase the rabbit." He triggered the devices. Explosions tore the sand beneath the berserker, collapsing it into a pit lined with jagged metal spikes Danny had buried earlier. The monster howled, trapped, thrashing. Danny grinned. "Gotcha." The last berserker. 4 down, 1 remained. The youngest, but also the smartest. It had watched, learned. Unlike the others, it didn't charge blindly. It moved carefully, ignoring Amy's taunts, scanning for traps, avoiding hazards. It stalked Lisa directly, blade ready. The humans regrouped quickly, circling it. Lisa's voice was calm, but her heart pounded. "This one's learning, we finish it together." Tony's shot cracked, aiming for the sword arm. The berserker shifted at the last second, the round glanced off. Amy darted in, fainting. The berserker ignored her, focused on Lisa. Kevin hurled a chemical charge. It burst in smoke, but the berserker held its breath, pushing through. Danny cursed, "It's adapting." The berserker cornered Lisa in open ground, blade raised high for a killing blow. The crowd leaned forward, breathless. Lisa smiled. "Now." At that exact second, the humans struck together. Tony's bullet slammed into the berserker's wrist. Amy dove low, slashing its ankle joint. Kevin triggered an electric surge through the ground debris. Danny hurled his last explosive, detonating against the berserker's chest. The monster roared, staggering. Lisa darted forward, using the distraction to drive an improvised spear into the crack in its armor. Not to kill, but to topple. The berserker crashed to the ground, shaking the arena. The judge's voice boomed, louder than the crowd. "Unbelievable, the Krillian berserkers have fallen. Winners, humans." Aftermath. The arena went silent. For 60 cycles, the berserkers had been gods of the trials. No one had beaten them. No one had even come close, until now. The silence shattered into chaos. Some aliens screamed in outrage, others cried in awe, a few impossibly cheered. Ambassador Kafir shimmered, voice soft. Impossible and yet undeniable. Lisa stood with her team, bloodied, exhausted, but alive. She raised her head to the stands. "They wanted predators," she whispered. "Now they know what predators really are." The next day, the humans would face not monsters, but the council itself. and the verdict might prove more dangerous than the berserkers. The Zephyrian Council chamber was the largest room Lisa Bennett had ever seen. It stretched for miles, a circle of tiered seats rising into infinity, each filled with representatives of a different species. Thousands of alien eyes bore down on the 5 humans standing at the center platform. Above them, a sun-like sphere blazed artificial light, illuminating every detail. Banners of alien script hung from the walls. The air hummed with 1,000 whispers, 1,000 arguments. The humans were alone, dwarfed, but they stood tall, bruised, battered, victorious. The Zephyrian judge's voice boomed. The trials are complete. Earth has succeeded. Humanity has proven worthy. The chamber erupted. Some aliens cheered in disbelief. Others hissed in fury. Many shouted at once, their languages crashing together in a storm of sound. At the far end of the chamber, High Counselor Zemer rose. Its body was liquid metal, constantly shifting between forms, beast, machine, humanoid, something in between. It was the embodiment of the collective's power, and its voice silenced the chamber at once. Impossible, the berserkers cannot be defeated, and yet they were. Its liquid face twisted into something resembling a sneer. How? Explanations. Lisa stepped forward, her voice was steady. We studied them, we learned their patterns, we found their weaknesses, then we used those weaknesses against them. A Crystalline Council member hissed, That is not combat, that is deception. Danny Clark smirked, No, that's winning. The chamber rippled with outrage. Another counselor, Insectoid, slammed its claws against the railing. Warriors face one another with honor. You use traps, tricks, lies. Amy Foster crossed her arms, unimpressed. Honor doesn't matter when you're dead. Survival does. Gasps echoed, murmurs spread. Kevin Murphy stepped forward, wiping dried blood from his knuckles. You've been running these trials for centuries. Out of hundreds of species, only 12 survived voluntarily. That's a failure rate of 99%. From a medical perspective, he gestured sharply. That's malpractice. Silence followed. The chamber had never heard such words spoken so boldly. Lisa pressed the advantage. You built a system designed to break people, to crush them into obedience, to test whether they would bow or die, but you forgot something. She glanced at her team. Predators don't bow. The conditions. High Counselor Zemer's liquid body shimmered violently. You will join the collective as all others have. You will serve. You will obey. Lisa shook her head. No, we have conditions. The chamber exploded with shouts. Unthinkable, arrogance, blasphemy. Zemer's form rippled into jagged spikes. No species makes conditions. You will comply or be destroyed. Danny stepped forward, his grin sharp as a knife. You've been watching us for a month, Counselor. Did you really think we wouldn't prepare for that? Kevin pulled a device from his pack, a small, unremarkable tool. He held it up. This, built from parts of your training equipment, it jams your comms, scrambles your weapons, turns your own ships into dead metal. Amy produced another device, tossing it casually in her hand. This one releases a virus, not against people, against crystalline data systems, your entire network, vulnerable. Tony chambered around in his rifle. The sound echoed like thunder. And this one, simple, puts holes in things, big things, strong things. Doesn't matter how tough you are, everything breaks if you know where to aim. The chamber went deathly silent. Lisa's voice was cold steel. While you were testing us, we were testing you. Every conversation with your ambassador, every ship that docked, every device you handed us. We studied them, and we found out the truth. You're advanced, yes, but you're predictable. You've stopped adapting. Her eyes swept the chamber, and we have not. The debate. The chamber erupted again, but this time the voices were different. Not just outrage, uncertainty. Some species shouted in anger, but others whispered in awe. A few even clapped their claws or tentacles in approval. Ambassador Kafir floated forward, his crystalline body glowing softly. Perhaps the humans speak truth. For cycles beyond count, the collective has ruled by fear, but fear breeds rebellion. Perhaps partnership breeds strength. Zemer whirled on him, body spiking. Traitor. Kafir's voice rang clear. Realist. Another council member, a vine-covered being with dozens of eyes, leaned forward. They defeated the berserkers. No one ever has. Perhaps their methods have merit. Merit, another roared. They are dangerous, uncivilized. They would tear the collective apart. Danny grinned. That's the idea. The chamber shook with noise, arguments tearing it apart. For the first time in centuries, the collective was divided. The threat? High Counselor Zemer slammed its shifting body into the ground, silencing all. Enough! Earth is declared hostile. Humanity will be terminated. The words hung like a death sentence. Lisa didn't flinch, then try. The humans activated their devices. Lights flickered across the chamber as comms scrambled, holograms sputtered, weapons powered down, the air filled with gasps of shock. Amy smirked. Surprise, you're not the only ones who can plan ahead. Tony raised his rifle, aiming not at the counselors but at the banners above, firing once. The shot ripped through alien silk, sending it crashing to the floor. The message was clear. They could hit anything, anywhere. Danny's voice carried like a knife. You wanted predators? Here we are. And if you try to destroy Earth, we'll show you just how dangerous predators can be. The chamber erupted again, but now fear outweighed anger. The choice. Zemer's body rippled violently, rage and confusion battling in its liquid form. Finally, its voice shook the air. What do you propose, human? Lisa's words were measured. Partnership, true partnership, equal terms, no forced trials, no conquests. If you want species to join, convince them. Show them benefits, not threats. If they want to leave, they leave. Voluntarily. Gasps rippled. Such an idea had never been voiced here. Zemer hissed. Unacceptable, impossible. Kafir floated higher, light refracting brilliantly. No, necessary. The collective must change or it will fall. Humanity has shown us that. One by one, council members began to speak, some in outrage, some in support. The chamber became chaos, but among the chaos, a new possibility began to grow. The aftermaths. Hours later, the humans walked free, not conquered, not obedient, not destroyed. The collective had not agreed to all their conditions, but neither had they executed them. A stalemate, fragile as glass, but one that left Earth alive. As the humans boarded their ship, Kafir floated beside them. Your species is most unusual, he said softly. Unpredictable, dangerous, perhaps exactly what the galaxy needs. Lisa met his crystalline gaze. We're predators, but we're also builders. If your collective wants to survive, it needs both. Kafir shimmered. We will see. 6 months later, Dr. Maya Rodriguez stood again beneath the radio telescopes in the desert. The night sky spread endless above her, stars burning sharp and cold. But the stars looked different now, because Earth was no longer alone. Ships had begun to travel between worlds. Some aliens came as envoys, cautiously, nervously. Others came as friends. A few even came seeking shelter from the very empire that had once ruled them with iron. Maya smiled faintly. The sky was still dangerous, still full of predators. But now, humanity was one of them. They wanted apex predators, she whispered. They got us.